Hi, I'm Matt Hoffman, and this is the Bub and Pop podcast where we talk about music, careers in music, life, the universe, and everything. Today, I am incredibly excited to share this wonderful conversation I had with the men of Jammy Buffet. These folks were not on my radar at all until a random conversation with Max Davies from the Kitchen Dwellers at the Annapolis Bay Glass Festival in 2025. Dwellers covered Son of a Sailor by Jammy Buffet. Loved that song and texted Max and told him so. He said, "Whoa, you love Jammy Buffet? We love Jammy Buffet. Joe Funk really loves Jammy Buffet. And you need to hear about this band, Jammy Buffet. They're opening for us as part of this upcoming Denver run that we're doing early next year. You should definitely check it out." There are a lot of things I love about this band. They take the music seriously, as did Jimmy, but they don't take themselves too seriously, nor did Jimmy. I could go on and on about Jammy Buffett, and I probably will, but I'm most excited for you all to hear from Jammy right now. Definitely check them out when they're near you. They'll be the best time that you never knew you were going to have. And with that, I am really excited to share this conversation with the men of Jammy Buffet. Enjoy.
Over time, we just discovered that there was a need in both the jam community for some happy tropical vibes, and simultaneously in the Parrot Head community for a group of youngins to step into the massive empty space that Jimmy left when he left the world.
Absolutely. Well, and I feel like the sort of knee-jerk response to who is filling in that gap would be, like Kenny Chesney, Zach Brown Band, whatever. How do you think about what you all are doing versus what they all are doing? What's your way of honoring his legacy versus the way, say, others are doing it?
Yeah, well, I think obviously I would start with the fact that Kenny and Zach are both awesome, but they're on a really high upper echelon part of their career, I would say. And they've already established themselves kind of in a specific lane. I mean, I remember Jimmy talking about both of those guys in the early 2000s and kind of saying, man, it's kind of cool that these dudes are kind of following in my wake and building their careers kind of off what I've built. And so he was amazed by that. But they also have been around for a long time and have established themselves down a specific lane. And they do honor Jimmy. I know they each play a couple Jimmy songs every show they do, which is awesome. And there's a lot of cross-pollination between those groups. Like Mac McAnally plays with Kenny all the time, played with him at the Sphere in Vegas. Caroline Jones is part of Zach Brown Band now, and she was out with Jimmy for a number of years in the 2010s. So there's a lot of connection there. I think what we're doing is we're just approaching it a little more kind of renegade rock and roll style. We're obviously a lot less country than what those guys are doing. The cool thing about Jimmy was that he was such a musical chameleon. He lived across all these genres, so you can kind of pick and choose what part of Jimmy you want to chase down as a band, which makes it really fun. And those guys kind of chase down the country route, and we're going a little more Gulf and Western outlaw. Yeah. I think rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean there was a period in the mid and late 70s of Jimmy's career where they were like a real rock and roll band, and it continued for sure. But like that little period there where they were just like kind of lunatics out there on the road, and you can hear it in the live recordings. Like you had to be there. Like that's a tight band playing loose, and that's what we're kind of going for.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it was nice to see, as a massive fan, it was cool to see you guys do stuff from Great Filling Station Hold Up all the way through to the Banana Wind stuff. I like the way that you put it, Brendan. He's just such a musical chameleon. What are some commonalities that you guys see between the Dead and the Dead scene and Jimmy and, say, the Parrot Head scene? Tyler, maybe I'll start with you.
I mean, I think we were kind of talking about this last night where from now getting the crash course in the Parrot Head scene in the community, they're very similar. Like the ownership they take over the music, the lifestyle of following the band and going to multiple shows a year. And there's such a similarity of fandom. And I think I was joking, I was saying, I think with you last night, I was like, they're all jam band fans, they just don't know it yet. Where they're like hoping songs get played, hoping, you know, waiting for this version, or like, you know, oh, they haven't played this in years. Like, it's the same kind of sticks and bricks of the jam scene. And so it's kind of been interesting to see those combine. There was something about like, people liked the records, but I bet there were, you know, so many people like with jam bands who exclusively listen to the live stuff or exclusively experience it through the live show and the lot before and the hanging out. So, I mean, it's funny. I think people in the scenes think they're very different, but from like a bird's eye view, it's like, oh, they're the same people, and it's the same energy and same fun. And so getting a chance to kind of crash them together has been, it's been amazing.
Mickey, what do you think? Because I know you also come from more of a jazz background.
Yeah, I mean, going off what Tyler said, like, it's the live show is what hooks so many people. And I would say most of the serious parrot heads I've met, most of the people who are sharing their stories around Jimmy, it started with, yeah, my friend brought me to this show, and here I am 30 years later, and I've seen, you know, 200 shows or whatever it is. And, you know, that's what drew me into it, was the live element. I ended up in the jam band world because it was a place I could improvise and get away from some of the establishment of, you know, jazz higher education, which, you know, we can talk about higher education however we want, but it doesn't exactly cultivate passion or make you fall more in love with a certain type of music.
Unless you're going to Domino College.
Yeah, right.
That's so sick.
That went over my head.
So yeah, you know, getting to play this music has really shown me like a whole nother level of how I can love it. And, you know, getting to experience, whether it's a kid, some show, maybe Louisville, or a kid came up to me and he's like, yeah, I've been a huge parrot head my whole life. My dad brought me here. I get jam bands now. You know, and hearing a 20-year-old say that's powerful.
Especially not the other way around, like coming in and being like, oh, now I understand jam. Like, it's cool to be seeing people brought in from one world into the other.
But I mean, you hear it the opposite though, as
Yeah,
well.
totally.
You know, I got when we really first started this thing, I got a friend in Boulder who came to an early show and afterwards was like, "Yo, Bob, why didn't you, like, what have I missed?" And I was like, I've been trying to tell you, man, for like a decade, like, that Jimmy was the man, and you have to go to these shows. But you know, there's a particular subset that just didn't associate, and we're bringing it to that because they're more into the jam singing, improvisational singing.
Jimmy was a victim of his own success in a lot of ways. You know, he started out kind of as a run and gun outlaw songwriter, wanted to be like Jerry Jeff Walker and those guys, but he ended up accidentally writing a couple hits, which did amazing things for him personally and the way he got to see the world and continue making music. But it also changed the way a lot of people song, and forever will. You know, he could never escape Cheeseburger in Paradise and Margaritaville, for better or for worse. They're great songs, but they're a specific thing. So for a lot of people, you're just never, they're just always going to think of that as what Jimmy means. But our hope is that they come to one of our shows and maybe see the other side as well.
Absolutely. I mean, just as a singer-songwriter, you think about a lot of his songs, either lyrically, you know, harmonically or melodically. Like, you could put them up against a Beatles song or a Dead song. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but like, you know, three chords, maybe throw a minor chord in there. Like, it's pretty similar in that regard.
Yeah, I like to play him up against Dylan. I mean, Dylan is, to me, like the Shakespeare of America. But Jimmy has a prosaic way with words that, you know, just like it has to be in the same conversation as the real folkies, you know. Now, when the Mayer family got on board with the Coral Reefer Band, that's when they started doing the heady Dan, Steely Dan kind of harmonic shit, you know.
Yeah, tell me about that. I'm not going to ask you to speak for your dad, but what are some of your early memories of your dad, part of the band, Jimmy?
It's such a huge part of my life story. I mean, I was born the year my dad started with Jimmy in 1989, and my dad had a record deal with another band that he was heading up at that time with Warner Brothers in the late 80s. And they lost their deal, and their producer, Elliot Shiner, was Steely Dan's producer. And he happened to be doing a run of a couple of Jimmy's records in the late 80s, right?
Some of my favorites.
So Jimmy was looking for a new band. There was kind of that first wave of Coral Reefers that was kind of the rough and tumble days. And Jimmy made a decision at a certain point, like, kind of, you know, not in an unkind way, but we need to clean up our act here a little bit. So, you know, my dad was a pretty clean-cut guy, heavy into the jazz scene, and played the hot licks of the time. And basically...
The hot licks of the time.
hot licks of the time.
Hot and ready.
He's a
from,
connoisseur.
Hot and ready from the jazz oven.
Learning guitar in the 90s, there were books called Hot Licks.
But
There was a guy in a fedora on the cover. Yeah.
But it ushered in a cool time, because that after that was kind of, I think of it as like similar to kind of late career James Taylor. Jimmy started working with Russ Kunkel a lot. James is a drummer, you know, played on Fire Rain and stuff. And the sound kind of became like it was still that same singer-songwriter aesthetic, but it was a little more of that, I don't know, adult contemporary.
You started to incorporate a lot of world music.
Some jazz. So yeah, it was cool. It was very cool.
So my college friends were all massive fans. Different people got on the bus at different times. We saw them in Mansfield, and they wound up releasing the live record of it.
Sure.
But like they opened the show with Great Heart, which some of those,
What a banger.
some of those like 80s albums or early 90s albums are sort of off my radar. But this one friend of mine starts freaking out. He's like, happened to listen to a lot of Johnny Clegg as a kid. And like, I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that Jimmy brings to the table for a lot of different people. Was your dad playing slide when he started with the band?
So my dad learned slide guitar that all came about when Jimmy did the License to Chill record. My dad had done a little bit of slide guitar, but it was cool and edgy, but it was a little ragged and not polished the way you see him now. But Jimmy brought on board Sonny Landreth, one of the best slide players in the country, in my opinion, out of Louisiana, and to play on that License to Chill country record. And my dad was kind of like, oh, okay, I see how that's done. So Sonny was very kind and actually kind of showed him some of the tricks of the trade and the little secret techniques. And it's been cool to see, because now my dad's just like,
Oh yeah.
you know, that's something I'd like to explore more.
Yeah, I was curious as to how much experience you have with it.
Very, very poor experience. It doesn't sound great, but
I mean, when we played with him in Nashville, it was like insane. When he was like,
awesome.
he just came on and was doing, I don't even know what he was doing, but I was blown away by his technique and ability with the slide.
He's got a Hendrix thing going on, you know, in everything that he does, where like he'll do some things that feel like it's noise, and then he'll drop into the most, you know, melodic shit. You know, he's a master.
Yeah, Peter Mayer is pretty good at guitar. I'll tell you.
he's not bad.
Yeah, he's not bad. Yeah,
He's one of the better ones.
yeah.
Well, but I'd love to hear, like, you hear them do the Dead thing a little bit with like some of the covers, but like, yeah, give me a 10-minute Scarlet Begonias where like Peter and Mac are just going to town.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
fuck yeah.
That's what I was thinking. When I went to go see him at Deer Creek, man, they started doing Scarlet. No, they were doing Harbor, and I was like, all right, let's go. Are we gonna go into Scarlet? Come on, like they know I'm here. Like,
Jimmy
It's
was
crazy.
so
This
funny.
whole show is
Yeah.
for me.
Jimmy loved the Dead so much. Like he often would talk about like the shared blood of the Parrot Head and the Deadhead. But it was interesting. Jimmy was so like, not strict, but he had a really specific idea of the song length, except for Desdemona's Building a Rock.
And God's only drunk. Yeah.
But he was basically like, solos need to be pretty like regulated and scheduled, and they would always joke about it in the band, like, okay, I better use my 8 bars well tonight because that's what I got. But Jimmy loved the Dead songs, which is kind of cool, because he was all about like, let's just strip it down to the song, because the Dead wrote some incredible songs. And they kind of left out the jamming part, which was an interesting approach, but cool to highlight the song.
that's something overlooked about the Dead. Is
For
that
sure.
is
They're
the
great
songs
songs.
are excellent.
awesome.
you know?
Well, and one of my family traditions is every time I ski with my dad, we listen to the Dead driving home, but we don't listen to a live album. We listen to studio. We listen to,
American Beauty.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so good.
Need a little more of this.
Well, along those lines of the song, Mickey, so as a jazz player kind of coming up, like a lot of jazz standards used to be pop tunes, right? Like 7,500 years ago, Autumn Leaves had lyrics, like a lot of these songs had lyrics, but you get far enough removed from that and it's like, oh yeah, it's just a jazz standard. You can think of the Dead's music similarly, and I think Jimmy's music similarly.
100%.
Like how, coming more from your jazz background, I guess, like what's it like sort of trying on Jimmy's songs when you're playing, keys, trumpet, electric, wind, what have you?
Yeah, I mean it's all the same really. You have your head, you have your melody, then you have your solos or exploration space, and then some sort of recapitulation. And I spent a lot of time in like the free improv, like kind of getting into the really weird shit because jazz felt a little too formulaic for me. And that's one thing I love about playing with this band is like it doesn't necessarily feel formulaic. We don't always have a plan. We know maybe we're playing this song and after this chorus there's a question mark. And that's something that really is exciting to me. And I think what Bob said earlier, a tight band playing loose, like that, to me, that is where the joy really, like that's where the life really is breathed into it night after night.
It takes us to such interesting places. Like last night in the Changes Jam, we got all the way to Egypt.
Yeah.
It was like a changes in longitudes.
Yeah, right.
Now, do you know going into a set which tunes you're going to stretch out versus which you're not?
We talked through it pretty
To
extensively.
some degree, yeah.
But fun fact, we've only ever had 2 rehearsals as a band, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm still at 0.
Mickey's never had the privilege.
So you guys are rehearsing in real time, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes like when we'll have plans where it's like, yes, this is the big jam, this is the big jam, and we'll like kind of do a small solo in this song, like. But then sometimes the moment comes and we're like, oh no, we're gonna hang out here for a little bit. Like, yesterday, what was it? Gumbo. Yeah, without Gumbo was supposed to be like in and out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we were just like, oh, this is cool. Let's kind of like stay here for a minute and see what's going on.
I like that you guys played that too, because like it could be viewed as such a throwaway song.
Yeah.
Like it was always a fun one to see live, but you're not comparing that to a Pirate Looks at 40, say. But I mean, not every Dead song, like by definition, not every song is going to be the best song. Like everybody but one is not going to be the best song.
Well, what's cool is like Jimmy has his greatest hits. We're starting to develop our greatest hits. It's like tunes that we, in our experience with an audience, do really well, and it's not necessarily the obvious ones. Gumbo's one of them. Pascagoula Run's one of them.
Pascagoula Run is great. By the way, I was thinking last night, you could like do a Pascagoula Run, Not Fade Away kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Because you got like the Bo Diddley beat.
Yeah.
But along those lines, what do you feel like has been the way to get Jimmy into jam banders' minds and hearts? Like, what are you hearing after a show where people are like, wow, I never viewed Jimmy this way, but now, whatever, to the extent people even talk that way?
I think one thing, to your point a second ago, Bob, where it's like we're kind of creating our own greatest hits in a way, like, if we're talking about fans who are like fans of jam bands who are like interested in Jimmy Buffett, like it kind of gives us that freedom where we don't have to be like, well, these are the hits, this is what people, it's just kind of up to us to be like, this is what we play the best and this is what we can, get the most out of. So I think it's given us, we're able to kind of curate what us as fans have enjoyed playing and listening to, and just like expose people to that and not have to worry about like what the charts said or like what were the big hits back in the day.
Yeah, and I think, I'm really not a fan of trying to convince people. It's we're here, we're doing our thing, we're having a good time, and that's pretty obvious to everybody out there. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. But more often than not, if you hear a great song and then it goes into a psychedelic jam and then you hear another great song, like if you like music, chances are you're gonna get hooked by some part of the show.
I mean, as long as, you're not being too haterish, and I know that there can be
In the
well,
jam scene, never.
yeah, let me back that up. Like, people in the jam scene and in the Jimmy scene have strong opinions that they are not afraid to share.
Oh yeah.
So, like, on the one hand, you guys have the opportunity, if you want to view it this way, to change both sides' hearts and minds. But, like, you've also got the challenge that those minds are looking a different way.
Of course,
going into it.
I think that's how we look at every show we go into is how are we going to make these haters? No,
He's discerning critical
well,
fans.
There's an element of people come to the show and they expect a cover band, right? And we don't even use the word cover band. We kind of jokingly call ourselves a continuation act.
Love it.
It's a little tongue in cheek. So every time we go out on stage, it's this process of trying to convince the audience that what you're here for is not just a replication. And we see a turn about halfway through the set where if there are people that don't like it, however many of them are, it's usually not that many, have stepped out. And the people that are into it are like, oh, I get it now and I'm in, So it's an interesting challenge that, I don't know, I think that we've kind of succeeded.
I think we don't
across the board.
And I think we don't put too much pressure on ourselves too.
There's no pressure.
Yeah, where it's like we're not, it's like I think we accept we're like we are not for everyone.
Yeah.
But if you're into what we're doing, I think we're going to do the best job we can for you.
We did a Dave Matthews cover at this one show. And
Yeah,
it was
we're
like
really just trying to
the
lose
most
people.
divisive moment.
What was the tune?
Tripping Billies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Jimmy
covered it,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
We kind of have it's kind of an unwritten rule where it's like we'll cover songs he covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you know Jimmy played on the Fish, like Sharon in the Groove thing?
Yes.
20 years ago. He covered Gumbo. Do you guys know why he covered Gumbo?
No.
It's the only Fish tune with parrot in its lyrics.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's fucking
Yeah,
amazing.
we've had a few people mention can you do a gumbo? Like,
Our buddy Todd in Nantucket has been mentioning it for quite a while. Yeah.
Was that an unspoken rule of how he picked covers? Because it seems like all the covers have something to do with there's like the ocean is in there somehow, whether it's in passing.
I think Jimmy had a really keen sense of what his fans would connect with. That was kind of his genius. But really, from my experience, he just picked songs he loved. Jimmy was as much of a music fan as anyone I've ever met in my life, and he got so hyped about songs from other people, and I never saw him get weird and competitive. Jimmy was not a hater when it came to other artists. He was like, "That's so cool! I want to do it and share that with my fans through my lens." And I think as long as we kind of follow the same tack, we'll be in pretty darn good shape.
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost like you guys have this richly overflowing treasure chest that people have not known is out there. It's like, no, guys, like, this is here. Let me show you this wonderful thing. But it's like you're kind of doing it in a way that they can understand, right? So if you played somebody's songs you know by heart and said, hey, there's a band that's focusing on Jammy Buffett tunes, it would be like, okay, no disrespect to those songs, but like, you know them by heart, right? The stuff that I always enjoyed about Jimmy's shows was, you had your core tunes you expected. You had the periphery where it would probably be some of these tunes. And then it was like, oh, well, he's playing Peanut Butter Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Sorry, go ahead.
it's a hell of a back catalog to just have.
Yeah. The last show that I saw him before he passed away, it was at Red Rocks, and he did Last Mango in Paris into La Vie Dansant. And it's like, no, 80% of the audience didn't really understand what was going on there. But to those of us who were in the know, it was just like, oh man, it was pristine.
Wow.
It was so
I love it.
cool,
Well, I saw the Reefers at the beginning of last year and reviewed it for Jam Base, and like the crowd was old fans, like I was still one of the relatively younger guys in the crowd, which kind of happens whenever you get into Buffett, I guess, after the 70s and 80s. But like, it's cool to see how they're out there carrying the tradition forward, right? And like, Jimmy obviously isn't singing lead on any of it, but Peter sings lead on Southern Cross and does it wonderfully. Nadira sings lead on stuff. it's just so cool to me as a massive fan of Jimmy's that you guys are out there carrying it on in that way. Like, as the story of Jammy Buffett continues to be told, like, you guys are a part of it, and that's fucking awesome. Like, as a fan, well, and as a musician, I have to be perfectly honest. When I first, so I learned of you guys through Max from the Dwellers. Like, I'd gotten to know him through Annapolis Baygrass. They covered Son of a Sailor like last year. And I texted him, I'm like, dude, I'm a massive Buffett fan. And we like immediately got way closer.
Nice.
And he told me about you guys. And I was equal parts like so excited that you existed and so mad that I didn't think of the idea.
We've heard that from a few people.
It's like, oh, it's genius. Because like, the tunes, I mean, so you think about other bands that are playing just other people's tunes, whether they be jazz players or like J-Rad, who are jazz players. Most of those guys didn't grow up on the Dead, but are like, well, we're badass musicians and we're going to apply this to that catalog, which lends itself to it particularly well. It feels to me like you guys are doing that same thing with Jimmy's music, you know? Like, I'm curious, you had mentioned, Mickey, a little bit about some of the bands you had played with on the jazz side. Before you guys started focusing on Jimmy's music, what other kind of bands had you played in? Doing original stuff, doing covers, etc. Maybe Tyler, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So I was like, when I really started like gigging hard when I first moved to Colorado, when I was 18, and I joined a band called 10th Mountain Division, and we played for like 10 years, and I was mostly in like the jam grass scene. So that's like how I got to know the Dwellers dudes. And, you know, growing up, I was mostly into like punk rock, emo music. And so I didn't really get into the jam scene until I moved out here, and then was just kind of like taken in as like a drummer in the bluegrass scene, for better or worse. So, you know, it was a mix of that. I've been just kind of playing with whoever will have me from then on.
Well, I have to
Whoever can
say,
stand me.
like you sitting in with the Dwellers last night, that was not bluegrass. That was fucking metal. Like,
No.
it was
Yeah.
so good.
His line has been he's been ruining bluegrass festivals for years. But in my opinion, like there's nothing better than some like trad grass, than some jam grass, than whatever the hell that was.
Well, so all right, so Torin and I, we were both at what is the festival? Fuck, I can't remember.
Germany?
No, it's the one down south.
Oh, Tico Time.
Yeah, so me and Torin were at Tico Time, and he was giving me a ride home. And on the drive, we were just like started talking about music and like punk rock, and so we listened to like Turnstile, then we listened to Japan Droids, and then Military Gun. So we just like we all of a sudden were like, oh my god, we like both love punk rock. And you know, then they did a punk rock show late night at Winter Wondergrass, and so I drummed for them. And
Wow.
yeah, that was like a dream come true. I mean, those guys are unreal.
Do you remember some of the tunes you played? The punk
We did
tunes?
59 Sound by the Gaslight Anthem, Time Bomb by Rancid,
Nice.
Sound System, and then I Want Your Skull by, is it the Misfits, I think? I
don't know.
But
When you say sound system, LCD sound system?
no, Sound System by Operation Ivy.
Ah, okay.
And Lindsay Lou sang it. Like, it was kind of the craziest thing about that whole experience was me hanging out with all these bluegrass guys and them being like, yeah, like John Stickley being like, I know every Rancid song by heart. And you're like, wait, where have you guys been for the last 10 years? Like, I thought I was like all alone here. Yeah. You know,
people were looking at me funny last night, like singing every word to your guys' set, because like just nobody knows that stuff. But you go deep on the catalog.
What's crazy though is in the scene, like you're talking about the Dwellers guys, like so many people who I think we've all had this experience through this band, like we've started playing shows and people come out of the woodwork you'd never expect being like, yeah, I've been listening to Jimmy Buffett since I was 2 years old. You know, like it's so many people's personal back catalog is Jimmy Buffett, and you would never even know it. And
well, and it's also almost like, to your point about his just like genius way with words, like having a greatest hits album sort of called Songs You Don't Know by Heart.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's the perfect answer to the question if someone's like, I don't like this shit on Songs You Know by Heart. Like, well, check this out.
Yes, we don't know by heart, right?
What kind of music had you been playing, Brendan?
Well, I mean, like I said, I grew up around Jimmy a whole lot as a kid. My dad would bring me and my sister out on the road from a very young age, which was very cool of Jimmy to accommodate all those little kids running around backstage. So when I started picking up the guitar and playing music, I was influenced by that, but I was kind of an indie rock guy in my teens and had a band called The Turf that did pretty well, but it was kind of high energy, you know, The Strokes meets LCD Sound System meets Radiohead. So. But the older I got, the more I found myself returning to kind of that core aesthetic, that core Jimmy thing, and started to really appreciate all the shit I got to see as a little kid, and started going back to more Buffett shows to see my dad, and my dad and I started playing together more, which was a huge thing for me. He kind of brought me into his band once I finished college and started doing music full time. So we've been working together for the past, gosh, almost 15 years now. We do a duo together. It's called Peter and Brendan Mayer, and it's awesome. It's really been a dream come true. And then, you know, especially since Jimmy passed, there's just, like Bob was saying, there's such a desire and a need for people to want to come together and celebrate that music and fill that huge void that has been left. So getting involved with these guys has just been one of the greatest gifts of my adult life. It's been so cool to stumble into this thing because it feels like such a natural extension of what I've been doing, what I've been building towards. It feels like I was meant to do this ultimately. You know, this is like where my career was supposed to be.
I would think about that too, where I was like, it's all kind of led to this kind of thing.
Yeah, as I've been saying, it's like the road kind of rises to meet you. And
100%.
Yeah, and as I was walking down the aisle to get my jazz degree, Jammy Buffett had just given my commencement speech, and little did I know that, you know.
that's amazing. And that's like a legendary commencement speech,
Yeah,
right?
and
Like,
that's right, yeah.
I didn't know, and then, you know, when Bob and I started talking, he was like, "Oh yeah, I've watched that." You know.
When you go deep enough, you watch a whole.
eventually you'll see all of it. Yeah.
You see in the Ring camera? No.
Well, so how about you, Bob? Just musically, where'd you come from?
I've always been a singer-songwriter, so I've released, I don't know, almost 10 albums of original music under my own name, under an old project, Kingdom Jasmine. And, you know, Jimmy's always been a part of my life ever since I was a little boy. Like, I was raised on his music. I went to his shows growing up. It was always there. And there was a period in my 20s, it's a similar story to Brendan, in that wherein I don't know, I kind of got too cool for it, maybe from outside peer pressure or whatever, but I would always find myself returning to the songs that I know by heart, and most people don't. And it was right around, I don't know, 30, 31 years old, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh man, this is what I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to be carrying forward the tradition of not only these particular songs, but the ecosystem that these songs exist in. So it's changed the way that I write. It's changed the way that I think of my career. And it's also just such an incredible honor, man. You know, I often go back to what 5-year-old Bob must have thought about meeting Peter Mayer and like sleeping at his house, you know? I slept at Peter's house and I had a dream where Jimmy visited me. And this is 100% true. I told Peter about it in the morning. I had a dream that Jimmy visited me and he was teaching me and a group of musicians how to play Havana Daydreamin'. And he looked at me and he goes, "So you think you're Jimmy now, huh?" And I was like, no, man, I'm just Bobby. And he's like, "All right." And then I woke up. And I went to Peter, and Peter's a pretty spiritual guy, and I told him that story, and he goes, "Whoa, that's a big bird in there, Bob." And you know, it is.
And then,
But it's one of those things, like, I think back as a kid, there's no way I could have imagined ever. I'm sitting there, fifth row, and there's Peter and Nadir and whatever, and you know, you fast forward 30 years, and like I can text him. It's
Amazing.
yeah, it's wild.
Do you guys play anything off of Vanity Daydreamin'?
Well, you go ahead.
Well, this tour, Bob and I have done the title track for a while, just the two of us, but it's the big anniversary, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to incorporate quite a few of those songs into
is
this
it
tour.
50 years?
50 years, yeah.
Woman Going Crazy on Caroline
Great
Street, like every single time. Just love it.
It's my mom's favorite song.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, tell me about like the Changes in Altitudes tour. You guys are how far into it at the moment? How much do you still have in front of you?
We're fresh into it. Yeah.
Yeah, just started.
2 dates. Today's
Oh,
our
wow.
third.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only shaved once, you know.
You shave it all? Why?
Well, you got to start out clean.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It's too cold out there to shave, man.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm not talking about the beard. Just a little cleanup around.
Okay, he's out.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, so this tour wraps what, like in February, March?
Early February, yeah. And then we head to Florida.
6, yeah.
Yeah, Florida's gonna be sick.
Oh man, Florida. Like, I just hope they're ready. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people down there are ready, but it's like, you know, I want the jam band people to be ready. I want the Parrot Heads to be ready.
Yeah.
I want the like top 40 people to be ready. Like this. I mean, a lot of it was on the top 40, and the stuff that wasn't could have been, you know, but for whatever, you know, the way the business works. Do you guys have any like festivals lined up soon? The spring, the summer?
Absolutely, yeah.
We have a couple festival dates that are not announced yet, so just stay tuned for that. But one that has been announced is the Levitate Music Festival in Marshfield, Massachusetts. Who's headlining that? Alanis Morissette.
Oh, yeah, super
The
cool.
day. And then I think Royal Otis is involved in it.
I think so, yeah.
It's awesome. It's a
Those
great.
guys
It's
are
a great
awesome to
festival.
put that on. They had us for the first time, or early when we were really just getting going as a touring band. That was one of our first big shows. They had us on as a special guest slot, and that was great. So we're doing it for real this time, and we're excited.
And Peter will be joining us down in the Keys.
My
Yeah,
dad's
yeah.
gonna
2
jam
nights
with
in
us
Key
for a couple
West. That
nights.
is just that's irresponsible.
I don't know if I need to like manufacture a recent.
Oh, you gotta get that. Well,
It's March 21st and 22nd, I believe.
or no, that's the Immokalee. It's 13th or
13, 14,
That's something,
right around
yeah.
there.
Oh, that's cool, Immokalee too. Yeah, so we're playing with Peter in Key West, and then we're playing this event at the Hard Rock Casino in Immokalee, Florida, and Mac is headlining. We're playing right
So
before
yeah,
him.
we're kind of
Awesome.
Well, so my last question for you guys, and I'm going to ask it, and I want each of you to think of an answer, and I'll ask you to answer it one at a time, and don't change your answer based on whatever somebody else says.
sure.
Do we have to go earmuffs?
No. I trust you guys. Scouts are.
Who's your least favorite member?
Who's the worst guy in the band?
That's an easy answer.
No, like if you were to, let's say there's a fan of jam bands, right? And you wanted to introduce them to Jimmy and start to show them like part of what you think might be, you know, appealing to them, or something that kind of highlights that overlap between the Parrot Head scene and the jam scene. It can't be a cover. Unless it's a cover that like Jimmy really, really made his own. Or no, I take that back. It can be a cover.
Okay.
Because like covers were a big part of what got me into Fish early on.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a famous story. Apparently the anecdote is that Van Morrison was asked about Brown Eyed Girl at one point after Jimmy had started doing it.
were talking
You
about-
mean the Jimmy Buffett song? Yeah. So Jimmy has a long history of stealing songs for himself and making people believe that he wrote them.
and making them better. It's like with like Watch on the Watchtower too. Like if I want to show somebody why that song is great, I'm not playing them Dylan. I'm playing them Hendrix. Like,
You're not playing them, Dave?
Dave Matthews?
You're not playing him live at Central Park, dude?
So the recently EP came out when I was in high school. Like that one got a lot of spins, but I was a hater back then, and I was like, "This isn't how it goes. Like, this isn't the Dylan version." I mean, I was like there's a Bright Eyes lyric that describes. He's like, "Sold my tortured youth, pissed in vinegar. I'm still angry with no reason to be." Like. That was me as a reasonably well-adjusted suburban kid. Just got to be pissed off at something.
Yeah, and Dave Matthews just caught flack. Like,
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, this amazingly talented guy.
Oh yeah,
Fuck
he seems like a great guy and
Sweet guy.
I mean,
What an asshole.
Yeah.
it's the same thing with Jimmy. You become
true,
a victim of your own success. You know, people might dislike a person they know who really likes Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
And that's why they dislike Dave.
Oh, yeah, you rebel against what's
Something
popular.
happened in the Nickelback.
Yeah.
Is this the Canadians?
At the end of the day, you know, like music is special because it's one of the truly living art forms. You know, it's not a painting, it's not a book. Songs continue to grow and get legs, and you know, there's a line it's kind of become a meme in the Dead community. Like, it took so many shows for China Cat and I Know You Rider to find each other. Like, your person's out there. Like, you'll find love.
Well, that's the other funny thing about the Dead. So, like, I have some buddies who are bigger fans than I am, and like with the 50th anniversary release of Blues for Allah, it's like, I forget how they pronounce it. They pronounce it one way or the other. But like, it's hard for me to imagine a time where it's like, yeah, there was a time before Bertha was written. So like, because anytime I've heard anything, it's been everything that had been written.
There was a time before they had a first drums in space.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
We don't know.
It's crazy. Well, so I'm sorry. So Brendan, Southern Cross, I think, is your answer.
Jimmy's version.
Yes.
Yeah, Jimmy's
Yeah, to be
All right.
Yeah.
Curd Steven Still's version from your memory.
Yeah, let's go with Southern Cross.
Okay, I like it. How about you, Mickey?
I think Son of a Sailor, Come Monday. I know that's 2 songs.
Fair.
But the poetry and like, I remember like listening to Come Monday on Labor Day weekend and it just hit so hard. And like, it has that American Beauty side of things. And the way we do those is, very much a playground for improvisation within the confines of this beautiful song or songs.
Very well said. Yeah. Tyler?
I got 2 as well. I would say Tin Cup Chalice. Personally, that's just like my favorite song. It reminds me of my hometown. And
Why does it remind you of Massachusetts? Well, you grew up on the Cape,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So it's just like, getting high on the beach. But I'm kidding. No, it's just like that, like super, like, slow life, beach life. Like, it really does remind me of just like the vibe of growing up in that area. And then, and I think that, our version of it it like opens it up and it's like brings a lot of emotion out. I think it's a really beautiful song. And then Jamaica Mistake rips.
Yeah.
So that one, yeah.
We've started calling him Jamaica Pete.
Yeah.
We don't know how he feels about
Yeah.
it yet, but
That whole album is just like, there's a lot of stuff that people have missed here and there along the way. Like, that album is a gem in my mind.
I love that one.
Banana Wind. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, math sucks.
See, the math sucks or my gummy just kicked in, one or the other.
I call me crazy. I like math sucks. I don't know. It's written by a good friend of mine. No.
Sorry,
Real answer, and we don't play this. But as I sat here thinking about it, I'm gonna go with Beach House on the Moon from the album Beach House on the Moon.
Yeah, a later one.
Yeah. Math sucks is on that one.
One of the greatest album covers of all time.
It's so funny. You can tell that they had just like settled into success. They were like, just take a picture.
I always
These
imagine-
fucking parrot heads will buy it.
I always imagined it was the morning and Jimmy was like, "Oh crap, I forgot to get." He was like, "Ramos, get a camera."
They're like, let's just use this as a placeholder. We'll get something better later.
But yeah, Beach House is like this really spacey, as it makes sense to be, but like really spacey, kind of weird, modal tune, and it's the sort of thing that people will listen to it and they won't think of Jimmy, they'll think of something else. They'll be like, I didn't know that he did this, So
I'm trying to think of how.
Yeah, we got to get yours.
Well, what I would not recommend is the way I introduced my closest friend in the world to Jimmy, which was Pencil Thin Mustache studio version.
Oh,
Not a great.
It's an uphill battle.
Well, yeah, but like, I kept kind of pushing. It's like, no, you need to come to a show, and then
they're not a Ricky Ricardo fan.
he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah,
some Burl Cream, Little Dabble Do Ya.
Such timeless references in that.
Exactly. Those have just lasted forever.
What was the song that he was like he never did because of just the references? The one something like his concert.
oh yeah.
Mañana.
Mañana. Yeah, didn't you say once he's like, yeah, these references don't like hold up.
Well, Jimmy really.
Gene Simmons would probably sue him.
Yeah, he did cover a lot of topical shit in his songs, which is cool. But yeah, it makes some of them very much like relics of a certain time and place. Like,
I hope Anita
Florida
Bryant
is.
never does one of my songs.
Yeah.
Who the hell is Anita Bryant?
Yeah, right.
I had to look it up, and it's interesting. But
Well, but so like just thinking out loud, and I'm not going to give one answer because I don't think I can. They don't dance like Carmen no more.
great song,
Carmen,
Yeah,
I had I know who she is because of Jimmy.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a cover he did, Ballad of Spider John.
Oh, so
I think
good.
is just a
By Wallace
wonderful,
Allen Ramsey, yeah.
yeah, just a wonderful song. In terms of originals, for me, it doesn't get much better than Weather Is Here. Like,
Yeah, it's a great
it kind of captures the whole vibe.
Wasn't it in Felton where we tried to do the intro? Do you remember?
Try it. We succeeded.
Yeah, we were just
You guys fucking nailed it. Yeah, I think is what we need. Where's my per diem?
Never start a band.
Oh my God. Guys, I love it. I could talk to you all day, and I look
thanks for
forward
having
to doing it
No,
more.
thank you for
but
having us.
Thank you so much. This
Yeah.
has been amazing and a lot of fun for me.
Thank you so much.
thanks
Thank
again.
Thank you.